Elon Musk was sitting in his office, lost in thought. He had been discussing human behavior with a colleague when an idea came to him. How would people treat someone who had nothing? Would they show kindness or judge based on looks? He wanted to find out. A few weeks later, Elon disguised himself as a homeless man. He wore old clothes, torn sneakers, and a messy wig. With makeup, he no longer looked like the famous billionaire. He felt like a different person. He chose a fancy restaurant called the Copper Elm in Santa Fe, New Mexico for his experiment. He wanted to see if people would treat him differently based on his appearance. Taking a deep breath, he walked inside. The restaurant was elegant, filled with rich customers. As soon as Elon entered, people glanced at him and quickly looked away. The hostess, dressed in black, gave him a hesitant smile but looked uncomfortable. "Can I help you?" she asked politely but nervously. "Yes," Elon replied. "I'd like a table for one." She glanced at her manager, who was watching from the bar. Then she said, "We're fully booked tonight," even though there were empty tables. Elon stayed silent, waiting. The awkward moment stretched. A young waitress named Sophia had been watching. She was new and saving money for culinary school. She noticed something unusual about the man. He didn't look desperate, just curious. "I can seat him," she called out before the hostess could turn him away. Everyone in the restaurant went quiet. The manager frowned but said nothing. Sophia led Elon to a small table near the kitchen. It wasn't the best spot, but at least he had a seat. "Thank you," Elon said sincerely. Sophia smiled. "Take your time," she said, ignoring the whispers around her. As Elon sat there, he could feel the judgment in the room. Customers whispered, some frowned. A waiter muttered, "Why is he even here?" Another one said, "This will scare away regular customers." When Sophia came back, Elon ordered something simple, just soup and bread. "That's all?" she asked, surprised. "That's all," he replied. She nodded and walked away. Around him, people kept staring. A man at a nearby table whispered, "What is management thinking?" A woman told her friend, "What if he asks us for money?" When Sophia returned with his food, she treated him like any other customer, with warmth and respect. But not everyone was kind. An older woman called her over and asked, "Why are you wasting time on him? People like that shouldn't be allowed here." Sophia blushed but stood her ground. "I believe everyone deserves respect, ma'am," she said firmly. Elon was impressed. It wasn't easy to stand up for someone society looked down on. After finishing his meal, Elon stood up. The room fell silent. The manager quickly approached him. "Sir, if you're finished, I'll have to ask you to leave," he said coldly. Elon lifted his hand. "I'll leave soon," he said calmly. "But first, I need to say something." He removed his wig. Gasps filled the room as people realized who he was. Elon Musk. "Yes, it's me," he said. "Tonight I came here as someone you wouldn't look at twice. I wanted to see how people treat those they think are beneath them." Silence filled the restaurant. I saw judgment, whispers, and disdain. But one person treated me with kindness. Sophia. Sophia's face turned red as he called her forward. "You didn't know who I was, yet you treated me like a human being. That's true character." He pulled an envelope from his pocket and handed it to her. Inside was a handwritten note and a check for $50,000. Sophia read the note aloud. "Sophia, thank you for your kindness. Use this to follow your dreams. Culinary school, your own restaurant, whatever you choose. The world needs more people like you." Tears ran down her face. The check slipped from her hands as the restaurant erupted into murmurs of shock and admiration. Elon turned to the manager. "Let this be a reminder. Treat everyone with respect, no matter how they look." Then he turned to Sophia. "Never lose your kindness. It's rare and powerful." With that, He left, leaving the restaurant in deep silence. Days later, the story spread worldwide. People debated kindness, judgment, and how appearances influence behavior. The restaurant faced criticism, but also made changes, training staff to treat everyone with respect. Sophia became an inspiration. She used the money to attend culinary school and spoke about kindness in interviews. When asked about the experience, Elon later said, "The smallest actions reveal the biggest truths. Kindness isn't about grand gestures, it's about everyday choices." His experiment became more than just a billionaire's test. It was a lesson about humanity, one that those present would never forget. After the night at the Copper Elm, Sophia's life changed dramatically. The very next day, the restaurant was flooded with phone calls and emails. Journalists, curious diners, and even strangers from across the world wanted to know more about the waitress who had shown kindness to Elon Musk. Reporters gathered outside the restaurant, hoping to speak to Sophia. At first, Sophia felt overwhelmed. She was used to working quietly, taking care of customers without drawing attention. But now, people recognized her on the street. Some thanked her for reminding them about the importance of kindness. Others wanted to hear her thoughts on that unforgettable night. Elon Musk, meanwhile, kept a low profile. But behind the scenes, he followed Sophia's journey. He admired how she handled the sudden attention with humility and grace. A few weeks later, Sophia received an unexpected phone call. "Hello, Sophia," said a familiar voice. "It's Elon." She froze for a moment. "Mr. Musk?" she asked, unsure if it was really him. "Yes," he said with a laugh. "I hope you're doing well. I was wondering if you'd like to visit SpaceX headquarters. I'd love to show you around." Sophia was speechless. "I'd be honored," she finally managed to say. The following weekend, she flew to California. Elon personally gave her a tour of the massive facility, showing her rockets, control rooms, and the bustling energy of innovation. During lunch, Elon asked, "What do you dream of, Sophia?" She hesitated, then said, "I've always wanted to open a small restaurant with food from around the world, a place where everyone feels welcome." Elon smiled. "That sounds amazing. If you need help, let me know. The world needs more restaurants like that." Months passed, and Sophia started her culinary studies with the money Elon had given her. She worked tirelessly, learning new skills and developing recipes. The media interest eventually faded, but Sophia's resolve grew stronger. Meanwhile, the Copper Elm underwent significant changes. The manager who had tried to kick Elon out resigned, embarrassed by his behavior. The new manager introduced training programs on treating every guest with respect. A small plaque was placed near the entrance. "Kindness is the currency that never loses its value." Elon Musk. Years later, Sophia opened her restaurant, Sophia's Hearth. The opening night was packed with people who remembered her story. The restaurant's motto, written in bold letters on the wall, was simple: "Come as you are, leave with a full heart." On that night, a familiar figure walked through the door. Elon Musk. He gave Sophia a hug and said, "You did it." "Thanks to your generosity," she replied. "No," Elon said, shaking his head. "Thanks to your kindness." The restaurant became a symbol of empathy and acceptance. People traveled from far away to experience not just the food, but the warmth and inclusivity Sophia had made the foundation of her business. That night at Sophia's Hearth was only the beginning of an even greater journey. Word of her restaurant spread quickly, not just because of its delicious food, but because of the atmosphere Sophia had cultivated. A place where everyone, no matter their background, was treated with warmth and respect. It wasn't just a restaurant. It was a sanctuary for people who needed a reminder that kindness still existed in the world. As the years passed, Sophia dedicated herself to giving back. She started a program called A Meal, a Moment, offering free meals every Sunday to those who couldn't afford them. But it wasn't just about the food. It was about making sure people felt seen, valued, and respected. Formerly homeless individuals, struggling single parents, and lonely elderly guests found solace within the walls of Sophia's hearth. One evening, a man in ragged clothes entered the restaurant hesitantly, his hands trembling. He looked exhausted, worn down by the world. Instead of asking if he could afford a meal, Sophia simply smiled and led him to a table. She personally served him a warm bowl of her grandmother's stew and a piece of fresh-baked bread. Tears welled in the man's eyes as he took his first bite. He hadn't been treated with dignity in a long time. "I don't know how to thank you," he whispered. "You already have," Sophia said gently, "by being here." Unknown to her, Elon Musk had been sitting in a quiet corner of the restaurant, watching the interaction. His heart swelled with admiration. Sophia hadn't changed. If anything, she had become an even brighter light in the world. Later that night, after the restaurant had closed, Elon and Sophia sat by the fireplace sipping tea. "You've built something extraordinary," Elon said. Sophia smiled. "I just followed the example you set that night at the Copper Elm." Elon shook his head. "I only held up a mirror. The kindness was always inside you." She hesitated before speaking. "There's something I've been thinking about. I want to expand Sophia's Hearth to different cities. Not just restaurants, but community spaces. Places where people can eat, connect, and feel at home. But I don't have the resources for something that big." Elon leaned back, a slow smile spreading across his face. "You know, I think I might be able to help with that." The following year, with Elon's backing and Sophia's vision, Sophia's Hearth opened in multiple cities, each one becoming a safe haven for those in need. Celebrities, business leaders, and ordinary people alike supported the initiative. The message was clear. Kindness, not wealth or status, was what truly changed the world. Years passed, and Sophia's impact only grew. One evening, now much older, she stood outside her first restaurant, watching a young waitress warmly greet a struggling man at the door. It reminded her of the night her own journey had begun. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. A message from Elon. "Still changing the world, I see." She smiled and typed back, "One meal, one moment at a time." Far away, Elon Musk sat in his office, looking at the message. He leaned back, satisfied. Kindness had truly made the biggest impact in a world obsessed with power and wealth, and as long as Sophia's doors remained open, that truth would never be forgotten.